Each man has won once and will be looking to settle things once and for all. November 25, Boxing After Dark returns with former featherweight champ Juan Manuel Marquez taking on Filipino Jimrex Jaca. December 2, Winky Wright, coming off of his draw with Jermaine Taylor, matches up with former welterweight champion Ike Quartey. Also that night, Jeff Lacey returns, taking on Vitaly Sipko. December 9, middleweight champion Jermaine Taylor squares off with former 154-pound champ Kasim Uma in Taylor's hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas. And for all that and more, you can log on to HBO.com. Before we move on to the live heavyweight fight here in Madison Square Garden, there was, as I mentioned, a poignant moment on the undercard, a moment which harkened back to the Garden's greatest night of boxing. 35 years after Muhammad Ali's epic first battle with Joe Frazier. The tremendous fight here in Madison Square Garden, which brought Ali back to the heavyweight championship picture after his 3.5-year exile and preparatory fights with Jerry Quarry and Oscar Bonavena. The 15th round left hook and the knockdown of Ali, with which Frazier punctuated his victory in their epic struggle. Tonight, Ali returned to Madison Square Garden as a spectator and elicited a spontaneous roar and a standing ovation as he arrived as a spectator to support his daughter Layla Ali, the #1 attraction in women's boxing. And unbeaten Layla, and the crowd had already gone crazy for Layla's dad. In the ring, Ali's daughter, Layla, seen by some as the linchpin of her sport and a target for a woman named Ann Wolfe, who constantly calls her out looking for a matchup. Layla went to the end of the 4th round in a competitive fight with an opponent named Shannon Burton from Kalispell, Montana. It was not until 2 seconds remained in round 4 that referee Arthur McCanty Jr. chose to stop the fight, giving Layla yet another technical knockout victory, keeping her dossier clean, leaving open the possibility of a matchup between the top 2 fighters in the sport, herself and Ann Wolfe. Now we turn our attention to tonight's main event and another status report on the much-maligned heavyweight division, which is suddenly no longer ruled only by fighters from former Soviet republics. In the wake of American Shannon Briggs' upset 12th round knockout win over Belarusian Sergei Liakhovich last Saturday in Phoenix. Briggs now joins Russia's Nikolai Valuev, Kazakhstan's Oleg Maskaev, and tonight's star attraction, Ukrainian Vladimir Klitschko, among the 4 fighters who are carrying around heavyweight belts. Kельvin Brok, if he can tag Vladimir and get him to fall tonight, could join Briggs as an American title holder. Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali, they're not, but there's no real shame in that. Lennox Lewis, they're not, at least not yet, and that's the problem. Here's a closer look at how Eastern European fighters momentarily took over the heavyweight division and where they might take it in the future.
No longer do you hear Holyfield or Tyson. The names sound a little different. Valuev, Klitschko, Maskaev. You name them, they don't sound like guys that came out of the South Bronx.
Vladimir Klitschko, Nikolai Valuev, and Oleg Maskaev, all heavyweight titleists, all from former Soviet republics, have shifted the balance of power in the heavyweight division.
So if the heavyweight division is dying in America, it is alive and well in Eastern Europe.
They were groomed to really come over here and make a competition of moving us out a little bit in the heavyweight division.
It's a revolution sparked by the fall of the Iron Curtain a decade and a half ago. Its roots, however, trace back to a bygone era, that which saw the Soviet sports machine on the front lines of the Cold War.
It was a war of influence around the world, and when you get the most medals in the Olympics, you win a crucial battle in the course of the Cold War. That's how it was viewed by the Soviet officials.
Specialized sports academies groomed athletes for amateur success.
I went to sports school. It was one of the best sports schools in Soviet Union. The way was actually hard because either you make it or you're done. Some of the guys, they were broken psychologically or physically at that age, but if somebody survived, so they were good enough to continue the sport and be successful.
When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the newly independent republics retained that emphasis on amateur development, producing top fighters who now focused on professional success.
They had the benefit of having an attitude that was right for boxing. You couldn't be frivolous. You had to be disciplined.
The Soviet Union fighters, once they turn professional, they are hungrier than the American fighters. If they say they're going to train at 4 o'clock, you can be sure usually 10 minutes before that they're going to be there on time. They take their boxing more serious as a business with them.
Eventually, many of these fighters made their way to the United States for the kind of professional training and competition that could take them to a higher level.
Bam, that's it. It's very important.
America is mecca of boxing. It was always like that.
Step, step, bam.
I repeat the words from Frank Sinatra. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
A lot of these guys had been in this country already for several years, and they had learned quite a bit. So the time was ripe because the heavyweight division all of a sudden was in a slump. It hadn't much to offer. Certainly not many American talents.
And that's it! It's over! Oleg Mastaev has another knockout of Hasim Rahmat.
But I'm not so sure whether all these guys would have been so great or would have been champions in greater days of heavyweight boxing.
Despite Shannon Briggs' knockout of Belarus's Sergei Liahovich last weekend, overall, it has been the demise of the American heavyweight which helped usher in this new era.
The reason that we don't have as many talented big men in boxing today in this country is the fact that I think many of them are going into other sports. They're looking at all these mega $1 million contracts that the basketball players and the football players are making, so therefore it's much more attractive to go into those sports.
A lot of people say the next great heavyweight American is playing in the NFL, that they're going to other sports and stuff. But it's not just because the NFL is there, it's always been there. It's because there's no marketing going on. There's always a football field. How many boxing gyms are there? There's less and less.
But even in other sports traditionally ruled by Americans, foreign athletes have gained a strong foothold. Heavyweight boxing is in no way immune to this global phenomenon that cuts across sports barriers.
This is not about boxing, this is about sports. And boxing is falling into line with every other sport.
I think it doesn't matter where the person is coming from. The matter is what he's doing in the ring. Sport is international. We have different kinds of sports and so many nationalities. The world is getting smaller.
Okay, so you're an American fight fan, you want to root for an American heavyweight champion, you're wondering how much chance Kельvin Brok really has against Vladimir Klitschko. Here's the most encouraging evidence we can show you. A fight a year and a half ago against Jamil McCline, who is himself 6'6" and 260 some odd pounds. When knocked down in the 7th round, the first knockdown of Brok's career, he got up off of the canvas and fought back vigorously. There, the left hook from McCline that put Brok on the canvas. He got up and dominated McCline for the rest of the round in impressive enough fashion to get 2 of the 3 judges to score the round only 10-9 for McCline instead of the usual 10-8. Then Brok energetically won the rest of the fight to cruise to a decision over Jamil McCline, and now we're privileged to be joined by the only heavyweight in the world who gets a little bit better every day. In fact, Lennox Lewis, who was once held at arm's length by crowds here in Madison Square Garden, is now warmly embraced. That must feel a little different than what came in the past. As we get ready to watch Kельvin Brok against Vladimir Klitschko, how much does it mean to see the way he performed after that knockdown against McCline?
It means a lot. It shows he's got great heart. You have to remember he's undefeated. He's an undefeated heavyweight. He's very hungry. He wants to be heavyweight champion of the world, and this is his chance.
Lennox, Vladimir's 6'6", maybe closer to 6'7". Brok is 6'2", maybe more like 6'1.5". Isn't it a big deficiency?
It is a big deficiency. He's up against a great boxer with a great right hand, and he's big. He's a big heavyweight, 250. It's going to make life difficult for Kельvin Brok, but you know, we're going to have to see how he copes with that.
One unique element of the fight tonight, if you've been watching us for years, you know that Vladimir Klitschko has a PhD in exercise physiology from the University of Kiev. Kельvin Brok has a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Larry, who would have thought, pick up your microphone, who would have thought that two college graduates would be fighting to try to raise the prospects of the depressed heavyweight division?
At last, proof of intelligent design, Jim. You know, in the primitive mindset of boxing, a brainy guy can't be a real good fighter because when the going gets tough, he's not going to want to get his brains addled. And it makes perfect sense, except that it seems that Klitschko and Brok haven't allowed the junk in books to turn their ambitions off. They are very ambitious. They get up when they're knocked down and they want to fight. They want to be champions. They want to be stars. Napoleon once said, men will die for ribbons, even brainy ones, Jim.
Napoleon had big power, but he wouldn't have looked very good in the tail of the tape. Let's see how Vladimir Klitschko and Kельvin Brok look as they prepare to match up against each other. And surprisingly, you can see that Brok, who's only been a pro for 5+ years, is 14 months older than Klitschko, whose professional career has lasted about 11 years. Vladimir listed at 6'6", maybe a shade taller. Brok, 6'1.5" by his own admission. Arm length advantage, 2.5 inches for Klitschko, measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. Vladimir Klitschko weighed 242 when he reported to training camp and enters the ring tonight at about 241. Brok, 224.5. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Lambert.
Vladimir Klitschko, Kельvin Brok fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Divisions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
Kельvin Brok hails from Charlotte, North Carolina, not exactly a hotbed of boxing trainers or sparring partners. When he first started to fight as an amateur at age 12, his father had to elect to train him, even though by his own admission, he knew nothing about boxing. He's come a long way from there, Larry.
Yeah, he trained him out of manuals and tapes, got him to the Olympics. After the Olympics, they got a professional trainer. He believes that he belongs here, says he is better than any fighter that Klitschko has beaten.
So Brok enters the ring saying that he's ready to box 12 rounds, but you suspect in the back of your mind that, like all Vladimir Klitschko opponents, he's thinking of trying to get a power punch to the Klitschko chin. Is that the right plan for him, Lennox?
Well, he's got to do something. Definitely, Klitschko is known for having a glass chin. Whether he can get in against a big man is the question, because it's difficult to really get in against Klitschko because he boxes as a tall fighter. Plus, he's got a great trainer, Emmanuel Stewart, which is a trainer of champions that, you know, he knows how to box anybody that gets in front of him.
And now Brok waits in the ring, and Klitschko prepares for the kind of entrance he would make on German television, where his career was nurtured along with that of his brother Vitaly. Remember, when they came out of Ukraine, they were at first promoted by German promoters and fought their fights in Germany, and therefore, Larry, extreme Prince Nassim Hamed style theatricality for the Klitschko entrance.
Well, they like their drama. They like to set up these big fights, almost like an opera. Lights flashing, and this huge, beautiful man suddenly appearing.
First defense of the belt that he won from Chris Bird in Germany earlier this year. It was his second destruction of Bird, who made a classic misjudgment in seeming to want to fight a big man's power fight against a much bigger man.
But interesting, Jim, of the hundreds, if not thousands of fighters who have won belts, he's the only one you've ever heard say, that doesn't make me a champion. He won't consider himself the heavyweight champion until he beats the top guys out there.
Klitschko enters, and as you can hear, despite the fact that Brok is the American fighter, this is a Klitschko house in New York, an international city. Germans, Ukrainians, Russians, and a lot of Americans love Vladimir. Now let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the world's capital of sports and entertainment and the Mecca of professional boxing, Madison Square Garden, New York City, USA. K2 Promotions, in association with Main Events, along with Madison Square Garden, HBO Sports, and RTL, and sponsorship by Mineral Experts, ComAdvice.com, are proud to present the featured bout of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the heavyweight championship of the world. Sanctioned by the New York State Athletic Commission Chairman, Mr. Ron Scott Stevens. The International Boxing Federation, President, Ms. Marian Mohammed, and the International Boxing Organization, President Ed Levine. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout on the 10-point system will be Don Ackerman, Luis Rivera, and Peter Trematera, and inside the ring, the man in charge of the action, referee Wayne Kelly. And now, for the thousands in attendance here at Madison Square Garden and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white with gold, official weight 224 1/2 pounds. His professional record, a perfect one. 29 bouts, 29 victories, including 22 knockouts, and this U.S. Olympian is the only ranked heavyweight contender in the world today who has never lost a professional bout. From Charlotte, North Carolina, USA, the undefeated challenger, the boxing banker, Kельvin Brok. Fighting out of the red corner, wearing red with gold letters, official weight 241 pounds. Since capturing Olympic gold in 1996, he now has a professional record consisting of 46 victories, including 41 knockouts, only 3 defeats, and 2 world titles. From Kiev, Ukraine, the reigning, defending, 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, the Steel Hammer, Dr. Vladimir Klitschko.
Good evening, Kельvin. Good evening, Vladimir. We are boxing for the heavyweight championship of the world. I expect a clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Protect yourself at all times. Shake hands. Come out boxing at the bell. Good luck. 12 rounds.
You don't need a college degree to know that the winner of this fight will have the best chance of unifying the heavyweight division, because he will have the most economic clout, meaning the other top fighters will want to fight him.
Vladimir, go over by your corner. Back to your corner. Back to your corner till the bell rings. I'll send you out.
Round 1 begins. Vladimir Klitschko's first landed punch against an off-balance Brok sends him skittering across the canvas. Brock seemingly doesn't have his feet under him yet. Lennox, is that nerves?
He just has to get adjusted to the fight. You know, stars make fights, and this is his first round, so he definitely has to get warmed up into the first round.
Now Brock begins to throw punches. I'm reminded a little bit of Michael Grant and how eager and anxious when he came into the ring against you here in Madison Square Garden, Lennox, and of course by the second round he was snuffed out. Brock seems to be getting his sea legs, but now he falls again.
Vladimir Klitschko, Jim, was on the undercard of that fight.
Fighting David Bastos, and he set a CompuBox record for jabs by a heavyweight.
His only other appearance at the Garden.
But it's probably helpful, isn't it, Lennox, that he has fought here once before and Brock has not.
And Vladimir has a lot of experience, and that's what he has over Calvin Brock right now, especially when it comes to big fights like this.
A lot of people thought 3 years ago that Jameel McCline, or 4 years ago, that Jameel McCline might be able to compete against Vladimir Klitschko. McCline, when he looked across the ring at Klitschko and his vast amateur experience, seemed to freeze a little bit. Brock has appeared nervous in the first minute and a half of the fight. Seems to be getting his legs now, but hasn't landed anything significant. Klitschko hasn't really landed his jab yet, as he waits to see when Brock is going to settle down. Now's the jab, and that's Klitschko's best weapon, his relentless jab, Lennox, which sets up the rest of his offense.
Right now, you know, he seems like he's setting up for that right hand, that big right hand that he throws. You know, Calvin needs to really shuffle in. He's not really shuffling in with that jab. He's just stepping. And right now, he's mixing up his feet with Klitschko's.
Lennox, over the years training you, Klitschko's trainer, Emmanuel Stewart, developed a sort of a science for how a big man, particularly somebody 6'5", 6'6", like you, like Klitschko, should fight in the heavyweight division. What are the basic principles?
Basic principles is stay tall, definitely jab a lot, and, you know, work that jab until you see an opening and then throw a combination.
What's the engineering of staying tall?
Well, right now you can see an example of it right now with Vladimir Klitschko, and he's doing a proper job.
Keeping his head up, his hands high.
Brock still hasn't figured out how to get inside the reach of Klitschko.
Styles always make fights, and, you know, Calvin needs to really get inside of Klitschko right now.
Round one seemed to be a bit of a nervous experience for Calvin Brock. And Vladimir Klitschko took his time, landed a few jabs, seemed to have controlled the round.
I think you're going to hit him with the hook. You tried it one time, just missed him. Then he's going to get confused, and then the right hand will come through. But the jab is good, and you're controlling him good with this arm here. And eventually he's starting to fall apart, keeping the pressure on him. Very good, patient fight. Keep controlling him with the left hand.
Give him more feints, okay?
Here's an example of Vladimir controlling the fight with the jab. And you definitely have to control the fight with the jab, just like Emmanuel says.
Klitschko given credit by CompuBox for landing 11 out of 31 punches in the round, 10 of 28 jabs. Brock was seen by CompuBox to land 10 of 36, so it wasn't a particularly busy round for either fighter. And as you saw, Emmanuel Stewart expressed satisfaction with the way Vladimir fought round number one. Calvin Brock's trainer, incidentally, Tommy Yankello. If you're wondering whether you've seen him before, he was with Paul Spadafora, lightweight contender for several years, who did a stint in prison and is coming back to the ring very shortly. Yankello, focusing on Brock, is not going to be working with Spadafora upon the time of his return. Klitschko's jab knocking Brock back a little bit there.
There's definitely a reach advantage for Klitschko, and it's difficult for Calvin Brock to get in. He's trying to get in, but it's hard.
Yeah. Brock looks like someone trying to find an address, and he hasn't found it yet.
Or a light switch in the dark.
Calvin, come on, you guys, keep it clean. 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 Calvin, come on, you guys, keep it clean.
People talk about Kельvin Brok. The compliments fly, but there's nothing that suggests that anyone sees him as having something really special, a threatening weapon. He's seen to be a good fighter with both hands, well-balanced, well-rounded, defends well, fights well offensively. There just doesn't seem to be anything truly distinctive, Lennox, and in the heavyweight division, you need a weapon.
You need a weapon, definitely need a weapon. Right now, Vladimir seems like he's controlling the fight with his jab. He's controlling it, keeping him out in a distance, not letting him get too close to him. Well, he should be using his feet a lot more, you know what I mean? Moving around.
Brok now is looking to throw the right hand over the jab. I think he's got pretty good power in both hands, Jim. It may not be special power, one punch power, although we've seen him knock out an opponent with one punch. I think he punches pretty well, but he can't get to Klitschko with good balance so that he can throw a good punch yet.
A couple of left hooks to the body in this round for Kельvin Brok. That might be a solution to the how to get inside problem over time.
Yeah, he seems to have found something with that, or he thinks he has.
There's a left hook upstairs for Vladimir Klitschko, partially blocked by Kельvin Brok. You heard Emanuel Stewart asking Vladimir to throw the left hook. Straight right hand by Vladimir Klitschko. Doesn't often lead with the right. So that may be a new element in his game if we see it more often.
Let him go and step back.
Not a whole lot of contact by heavyweight standards in the first couple of rounds. A restless crowd waits for the explosion. December 2, live on HBO, Winky Wright coming off his draw with Jermaine Taylor takes on former 147-pound titleist Ike Quartey. 1 week later, middleweight champ Taylor defends his title against former 154-pound title holder Kasim Uma. 2 fascinating fights on World Championship Boxing.
How you feel? Okay, good. Close rounds, close rounds. All right, let's go. Seconds out.
Brok could have won that last round on his body punches. Klitschko didn't do much.
There's a little swelling under the right eye of the left eye of Vladimir Klitschko, perhaps from a Brok right hand. CompuBox numbers slightly favoring Brok, perhaps partially because of those body punches in round number 2. Klitschko hasn't really stepped up the tempo on his jab. In the past, we've seen him throw sometimes 35, 40, 50 jabs per round. Nothing like that yet tonight. Both fighters looking cautious.
Yeah, Vladimir's doing a lot of measuring right now. And, you know, Kельvin's still trying to work and trying to get inside, giving him different angles right now, which is the right thing he's doing. Right now he can only get to the body, so he's hitting the body.
Step back. One down. Let him go. Right.
There was some fear that Klitschko would completely outclass Brok. I don't think that fear has been justified to now.
Certainly not. It's a give and take fight. It still seems to be a relatively cautious fight on both sides for heavyweights. And Klitschko seems far more sparing in his use of the jab than is normally the case, which indicates a fair amount of respect for Brok.
Well, it's not just the respect, but Brok keeps his hands high. He's got a pretty good defense, and Klitschko is unable to penetrate with more than one punch.
Now Klitschko committing to the right hand, tried it twice. And incidentally, when you're 6'6", you're not going to be, by definition, a body puncher. Lennox, you can talk about that point. It's harder for tall guys to throw body punches without worrying about something coming back.
It's very hard. Plus, you know, he ducks under the punches. Kельvin Brok ducks under the punches, and it makes it very difficult for Klitschko to hit him. Plus, he's a bit faster than Klitschko's thought. He's used to big guys, and he realizes that he's faster than bigger guys.
So Brok's speed superior to that of some Klitschko opponents, and perhaps the Klitschko fight plan to this point, indicating a slower pace for the Ukrainian fighter than has sometimes been evident. Now, some of that, of course, may have to do with the way he ran out of gas against Lehman Brewster. A fight in which he was able to land at will and ultimately perhaps landed too much.
Vladimir's finding it difficult to hit Kельvin Brok with that jab.
And the crowd continues to get more restless. They wanted excitement.
You're doing it just like we was talking about the other, but you're not using and keeping him at distance now. You're letting him get too close. And therefore, he may be winning the fight, believe it or not. Because you've been waiting and waiting, and now you're letting him punch, and you're just leaning in, doing this. You got to start getting your distance and keeping him outside, and then you can catch him. But you're bending into him now. You're not using your distance anymore, okay? And get back to keep him at a distance. He's getting too close to you now. And there's another stroke.
Neither one are guilty, but you're both guilty, all right? Okay. Just try not to hold. I'm going to tell him the same thing.
You're on the inside, and you're throw them uppercuts up the middle.
Right.
Throw uppercuts up the middle, okay?
The main thing is just stay focused. Don't let them.
Right.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Right.
Keep the jab working, and don't.
All right, let's go. Seconds go. Let's go.
CompuBox numbers through 3 rounds show a huge disparity in power punching, and you heard Emanuel Stewart talking about it to Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir only 4 out of 31 in power shots through 3 rounds. Brok getting credit for 28 out of 52. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
I got it 2 rounds to 1, 29-28, Vladimir Klitschko. Jim, I got to tell you something. What Vladimir is doing is he's not snapping that jab, he's pushing it. And it's really costing him. I mean, this is a guy that used to snap the jab, come over the top of that straight right hand. You know, he's a power puncher, but now he's just keeping it out and pushing it out. And that's what's hurting him. Kельvin Brok did get in enough in the second round to win that. Third round was very close. I give it to Vladimir. 2-1, Klitschko.
Klitschko trying to get his jab going here in the early portion of round number 4. When you hear the encomia from
When I say break, take a full step back.
Emanuel Stewart for the way Vladimir trained, you might have expected a faster pace than this. But Kельvin Brok has landed enough body punches and has shown enough versatility in the first few rounds, perhaps to suggest some questions in Klitschko's mind. Good body punch by Brok with the right hand.
Let go! Wait! No punch.
More body punching from Brok, who seems to be focused on the Klitschko torso for the moment.
It's just like 2 pieces of an apple that don't quite combine to make a whole apple. The styles are somewhere off, and the natives are getting restless.
Klitschko seems particularly energized now after having attempted to show Wayne Kelly that he thought Brok was holding him. Kelly wound up warning both fighters not to hold.
Step back.
Round 4 for schedule 12. Vladimir Klitschko in the red trunks. Kельvin Brok in the white with gold. Kiev, Ukraine against Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Brok also spends time in Durham, where his wife Yolanda is in her final year at Duke Law School. Left-hand shot by Klitschko.
Brok is doing a great job by not getting hit by even jabs or right hands. And like I said, he's going to the body. That's the only thing he's hitting right now, he's getting to, and he's doing a good job at it.
Well, Brok's defensive skills were shown coming in the fact that CompuBox numbers showed opponents landing only about 20% of their punches against him over a long series of fights. And that's the kind of percentage that demonstrates that Brok makes himself difficult to hit. Klitschko may be having trouble simply with the fact that Brok knows how to defend.
Well, Klitschko, if he wants to get to Brok, he needs to relax a bit more. He's a bit tight, very tight. He's trying to push out his punches, should be more fluent with his punches.
It Immediately following our show tonight, stick around for Countdown to Pacquiao Morales 3. A documentary-style look at both fighters as they prepare to meet in the rubber match, the third time.
You're going to get it, baby. Okay, so don't get impatient. Okay?
Hey, Cal. Give me this and give me jabs. And guess what? Use his hand and put it in the pocket and start catching, just like you've been doing in the gym. Point at.
You're holding too much. Let him go.
Шаг назад, он на тебя бросается, сделай шаг назад. Что ты не цепляешься сразу же, не зажимайся передней рукой.
Just gotta let him go a little bit more. You're letting him get confidence up too much. Okay, I want to say no more. Let him go.
Не зажимайся.
CompuBox numbers through round 4. Klitschko 34 out of 159, 21%. Brok 49 out of 171, 29%. Despite the seemingly nervous start in round 1, through 4 rounds, Brok has thrown more, landed more by CompuBox count.
There's a welt underneath the right eye of Brok, which indicates that some of those jabs are starting to tell.
Klitschko getting his jab between Brok's guard twice in a row. These are not hard jabs. Still perhaps not snapping it in the way that he can, but now those jabs begin to show a little bit more fire.
Yeah, I've counted about eight jabs that he's landed already in less than a minute of this round. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Let me tell you, those are not soft jabs. Vladimir's stepping into those jabs, so Calvin's definitely feeling it. He's snapping his head back.
Another good left-hand punch by Klitschko, this time turning it into a little left hook. And now the jab lands again, and again, and again. And the left hook lands again. Vladimir Klitschko having a big round with the left hand in round number 5. And Brok begins to hold his hands back and not throw as Klitschko begins to dominate with the jab. This is a sudden change in the fight taking place before your eyes in round number 5.
Brok's trainer told him to keep that right hand up and catch some of those jabs, but he's not doing a good job at it right now. This is when Brok needs to step up, when Klitschko's relaxing and resting a bit. He's already thrown 10 jabs, 15 jabs, now he's resting. This is when Calvin needs to step it up.
And another left hook lands for Vladimir Klitschko. He's landed the jab and the left hook fluidly, as Lennox Lewis suggested he would have to do here in round number 5. Almost as though somebody turned on a light switch in Vladimir Klitschko here in the 5th round.
Break, let him go, step back.
It was a situation where he was just tight. Now he's relaxed a bit. He's getting more looser and connecting with the jab.
Brok's confidence not where it was a round ago. Calvin Brok, highly intelligent man, will try to keep adjusting himself as Vladimir makes adjustments throughout the fight. Suddenly the jabbing contest belongs to Klitschko, and he landed a little right hand inside, and there's a bigger right hand. And Calvin Brok has taken a beating in the 5th round. Big left hook to punctuate the round for Vladimir Klitschko.
Time!
Go stand in front of the guy.
Yeah.
Don't stand in front of the guy. Okay.
Right back with the right hand.
All right, how's your
right
leg?
hand.
Okay. How's your leg? Good. Okay, listen.
Yeah. Look.
You don't want this guy to get in a rhythm. You understand what I'm saying?
You got to get off with your jab.
So you got to get off in the jab.
Okay.
Suck it up.
He's killing him out pretty good. Okay. You got to stay behind it, baby. Catch it, something got good.
Here's a look at Vladimir Klitschko's jab throughout the 5th round. Bang, bang. You heard Larry Merchant suddenly turning himself into a CompuBox punch counter. Lennox, throughout your career, we saw that when you averaged more than 30 jabs around, you were virtually untouchable. When you were below 30 jabs around, you were often in trouble. Vladimir Klitschko threw 57 jabs in that round.
Oh, that's a lot of jabs. And these things, when you throw a lot of jabs like that, that opens other punches up, and that's what he's doing with that right hand. He's throwing that right hand right after these jabs, because what he's done, he's softened him up. He's made him worried about the jab, and Calvin doesn't see that right hand coming.
Yeah, and the left hook might start to look pretty good if he can get Brok's right eye to close. As Larry mentioned, it began to swell under the right eye in the last round. Heavyweight average is about 6 landed in 19 jabs thrown per round, so Klitschko exactly tripled the heavyweight average for jabs attempted in the 5th.
Most fans here, or many of them at least, really didn't know who Calvin Brok was. But now that they see him staying in there with Klitschko, who
now that
has
they see blood coming from Klitschko's left eye, which I think was the product of a butt, or an accidental butt.
Right, they're chanting USA, USA. That cut looks like it's alongside the eye, not in a dangerous place.
Calvin's father told him he's standing in front of him, and he's still standing in front of him. He needs to definitely move around him and give him different angles.
So there'll be work for Klitschko's cut man Jacob Duran to do between rounds. Klitschko trying the right hand over the top. He's throwing that punch with a great deal more abandon than before. Brok gets his first tackle of the night on his 2nd trip to the canvas.
Over there.
It looks like there's a bad cut. It looks like a bad cut over Vladimir Klitschko's eye.
Well, that could make scorecards vital and important, because if the fight gets stopped due to a cut over Klitschko's eye.
Only if it was ruled a butt.
And I think it was, but we haven't seen an official ruling from the New York State Athletic Commission yet. Hard right hand by Klitschko. Brok took it pretty well. Vladimir tries to get back in position to throw another one.
Perhaps a little desperation for Klitschko as he senses the blood trickling down his face.
And of course he has no idea how big the cut is, because he can't see a thing.
They're both cut.
Fight getting rougher. Crowds liking that. Klitschko trying to sell out a little more on the right hand, Lennox. Last 10 seconds of round 6. Klitschko trying one more big right hand. Had his left hand in the air above his head. And for the first time, the crowd stands and applauds the action in the ring.
You got to throw the left hook right hand, okay? You're letting him get too much into the fight, and he's getting confidence up. When you take a step back and you let him miss, throw your right hand. You understand? You pull back and let him miss and be out of position, then you don't throw the right. Doctor want to see it.
Передняя рука, не вкладывайся. Он кидается на тебя, сделай шаг назад.
You got to step it up to him. You understand? You're backing back too much. He's getting confidence.
Ну на нем. Не жди, не жди, когда он работает.
Let's go.
Сам на нем работает.
Let's go.
Between rounds, referee Wayne Kelly leaned over the ropes to tell us that the cut of Vladimir Klitschko's left eye was caused by an accidental headbutt. Harold Letterman, as you give us the score, tell us also the implication for the accidental headbutt ruling.
Okay, Jim, 4 rounds to 2, 58-56 Vladimir Klitschko. As far as the rule goes, since it's beyond round 4, if this fight is stopped by that cut being worsened by legal blows, we go to the scorecards because the original cut was caused by an accidental headbutt. So if the fight is stopped, we go to the scorecards. 4-2, Klitschko.
Vladimir Klitschko got a technical decision win over DeBarrow Williamson. A year and a half ago, when Williamson managed to cut Klitschko over the eye as the result of a butt, fight was stopped. Klitschko was leading on 2 of the 3 scorecards and got a win. That fight raised a lot of questions about Vladimir because Williamson, relatively willowy, knocked Vladimir down with a right hand. On the other hand, DeBarrow Williamson, as an amateur, was known as the touch of sleep because of his big right hand punching power. There's a much bigger sense of urgency in the face of Vladimir Klitschko now than was the case in the first 4 rounds of the fight when he seemed sometimes to be sleepwalking. There's another good right hand for the Ukrainian star. And a big right hand by Klitschko, and he thinks he's got Brok hurt.
Vladimir throwed a left hook right hand. A famous combination by trainer Emmanuel Stewart.
And there it is again. Left hook, right hand, landed flush. Vladimir going a little bit wild here and leaving himself exposed as he knocks Brok down with a right hand. And that was a huge punch, and it's going to be tough for Brok to get up. And Wayne Kelly's going to stop it. A knockout win for Klitschko in the 7th round. Boom! That's what heavyweights are supposed to do.
Like I said, Vladimir Klitschko has a great right hand, and you know, not too many boxers out there can contend with it, especially when he sets it up with that jab. When you set it up with that jab, you find it difficult to throw that, to catch that, or even see that right hand. And he did a marvelous job throwing that right hand tonight.
Yeah, when I started the countdown in about the 5th round, and he was seeing that he had to force that jab, that's when he set this up 2 rounds ago with the jab.
2:10 of the 7th round. Klitschko closed the show, landing 9 of 17 power shots in that round. Now here's the punch that first hurt Kельvin Brok. And as you said, Lennox, left hook, right cross. This is when he first jumped forward thinking that he had Brok in trouble. Now the knockout, Lennox.
He sets it up with a jab, right hand. Now, the big problem with that, with Kельvin, is the fact that he stood there. He was right in front of his face for that right hand. He needed to show him more movement, more angles, but he was standing right there. All he had to do was throw a right hand. Kельvin was there for it.
Brok beat the count, but as you saw, referee Wayne Kelly assessing Brok's balance, decided that it might be too dangerous to allow him to continue. The stoppage reminded me a little bit, Lennox, of the way that your fight against Oliver McCall was stopped. You were on your feet, your balance was a little shaky. What do you think of that stoppage?
I think it was a good stoppage. He was definitely hurt, and you know, the way he went down and landed on his face and tried to get up, I'm glad the referee stopped it.
All right, let's go to Michael Buffer for the official particulars on the knockout.
Ladies and gentlemen, this fight comes to an end as referee Wayne Kelly, following the knockdown, calls a halt to the action. The official time, 2 minutes, 10 seconds, round number 7. The winner by knockout victory, still the reigning and defending heavyweight champion of the world, the Steel Hammer, Dr. Vladimir Klitschko.
In retrospect, Lennox, a fascinating fight because I think you saw 3 or 4 rounds of bad Klitschko and then 3 rounds of good Klitschko. And that may be a statement on what it means to have Emmanuel Stewart in your corner.
Trainer of champions. Brok.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying Brok stood right in front of, you don't stand right in front of a guy that can punch. It's always important to show him different angles, make it hard for him to hit you. And in this case, it made it easy for Klitschko to hit Brok.
Most of the 90 punches on which Klitschko connected were jabs in the first 6 rounds, but power punches told the story in round 7. Vladimir winding up with this edge in jabs, landing 62 to 26 for Brok. And there was a moment early in the fight when Brok had the edge in that category before Klitschko stepped it up beginning in the 5th round. Now Larry Merchant stands by with the winner.
Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations, Vladimir. A lot of people didn't know what to expect from Brok. Did you know? Were you in any difficulty in trying to solve his style early in the fight?
Yes, I did, as you have seen. And Kельvin Brok is very difficult to reach and to hit. His protection is very good. and he feels punches very good. That's why it was not so easy to get him in the first rounds. First I have to get the distance, and then actually I supposed to finish the fight maybe 2 rounds earlier. But anyway, it was great experience to go through another undefeated fighter. I've really fun to defeat undefeated fighters.
Because they can be awfully difficult to beat, because they will stay as long as they can, thinking they have a chance to win.
That's exactly the issue, and Kельвин Брок, in my opinion, he was, I think, the best heavyweight right now out there, even if he doesn't hold the title.
When you got to start with your jab, you set up the close, and please describe for us, Vladimir, in this monitor, what you see and how the fight ended.
Of course, with the left wide hook, what usually Kельвин Брок did, or still doing, it was actually easy to hit him with the right hand, but it's all about timing, and I should do it in the early rounds, not in the late round.
All right. Did you feel any urgency because of the blood coming from your eye?
Yes, it was another headbutt, which was my mistake. I allowed him to come closer, and actually all cuts which I've got, most of them, almost every of them, from headbutts.
So you felt some urgency, you started to land your jab, and then you went for the knockout. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's the right description.
You had a very tumultuous welcome here in New York. Nobody knew what to expect. A pretty good crowd. Max Schmeling, he once told us, said, to be a champ, you got to fight in the U.S. What is your reaction to the crowd's reaction to you?
I'm really thankful to everybody who got to the show tonight, because each sold ticket, part of the ticket was going to UNESCO project to build new schools in Namibia, Africa, for those children, because they have, without education, no future. So now they will get at least $250,000. We will see, it shouldn't be more, because I see the arena is full, so I'm expecting good number.
You said you won't feel like a champion until you can beat all the other guys with belts. Do you have a preference now on who you would like to fight next?
I think anyone who holds the title. It doesn't matter who, one of them.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Congratulations again. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Larry Merchant. So Vladimir Klitschko gets a knockout win over Kельвин Brok to try to cement his status in the eyes of many experts as the #1 heavyweight in the world. Let's talk right hands. Yours was the bomb. I mean, when you hit somebody with the right hand, there was a thudding effect, and about 10 seconds later, they'd say, oh, why am I still woozy? I think Vladimir's right hand is maybe a little quicker and a little sharper, if not as heavy as yours. What do you think?
I would say it's about the same. I wouldn't say it's better, but he has a terrific right hand. Like I said it from the beginning. You know, not many heavyweights are going to contend with his right hand. And if they get past the jab, they're going to feel the right hand. And he's got a powerful jab. And he throws the jab a lot of times out there. He keeps it busy. That's what softens his opponent up. And then he ends it all with the right hand.
Everybody talks about the vulnerable chin. Is his offense his best defense? I mean, my feeling is when he's coming forward and jabbing, the chin may not matter.
Well, you know, they only talk about his chin in one fight. Evidently, if you look over his last few fights, the chin hasn't come into play whatsoever. So that's out of the books. His chin has gotten tougher.
All right, thanks a lot, Lennox. Larry Merchant. Vladimir Klitschko starts sluggishly, it seems, and then suddenly wakes up, begins throwing a bushel of jabs, and from there, it was strictly a matter of time.
There's nothing as exciting in boxing as a heavyweight fight, even when it doesn't look yet ready to explode. And when it does, you can still hear the noise in this arena. That's what the big heavyweights can do and should do. Two quick stories. When he fought in Germany earlier, a round card girl met him before the fight and told him she was in love with him, and between rounds, this first round and the second round, she would give him a key to her house. Vladimir was abashed, so he went out and he knocked the guy out in the first round. Tonight, apparently, there were no round card girls. hitting on him. The other story is that he tells now is that when he was a boy, a relative came from abroad to the Soviet Union and gave him a bottle of Coca-Cola. He immediately opened it up, didn't drink it, but just sniffed it. He says, that's American air. He was on American air tonight.
Yeah, indeed, and he breathes the air at the top of the heavyweight division, which may not be in the eyes of boxing writers and reporters as rarefied as has previously often been the case, but it is nevertheless Vladimir's to breathe once again after tonight. Thanks very much for being with us. As we look ahead, we want to remind you of our upcoming